I told him not to worry. I'll forget I ever knew you. Pure murder. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine that taking place? Siblings saying, hey, don't even talk to me in school. Oh, I bet you could imagine, because this happens in every household.
Fact.
I actually have the unique scenario where me and my two sisters, because we are all exactly a year and a half apart, all three of us went to the same high school at the exact same time. And of course, we were trying to forge our own existences. We did not want to hang out with each other. We would yell at each other if we wore the same shirt, the same color. We'd pull up at school and I would look at my little sister and be like, don't even look at me today. Don't even look at me if you see me in the hallway. Stop hanging out with the same people as me.
Okay, I'm listening. You have my attention.
I remember, and I'm just coming out with this now because God forbid my little sister writes a book and it's called Spare. And she talks about the trauma that I put her through. I did this, I want to come clean. When Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera were both dropping their music in the 2000s.
Okay.
Dropping their music in the 2000s, I told my sister that she had to pick whether or not she was Team Christina or Team Britney. And she said she liked both of their music, and I told her she had to pick, and she picked Britney, and I told her that she wasn't allowed to listen.
What?
To Christina Aguilera's music or hang out with anybody that liked Christina Aguilera like I did. So I guess that was a childhood trauma, and it is worthy of $25 million to put into a book about awful treatment. I mean,
Are you serious?
how absolutely normal is it that Willie does not want to hang out with his little brother in school when he's around him all the time? How absolutely normal that he doesn't want to wear the same clothes. Not if you are Prince Harry. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, because this is what happened one time when they were at Eton together. Basically, he goes and he recounts the story about how one of his mates, Harry's mates, completely not related at all to Willie, convinced him to shave off his hair. Right? And so Harry cuts his hair and the haircut looks really bad. And he starts freaking out and realizes that he's made a big mistake. And all of his mates are screaming and howling in laughter, like, ah ha ha, you just shaved your head. You can picture this because that's how the lads are. It's all the lads do. The boys make fun of each other. They're like, ha ha, this is hilarious. So Harold goes up to Willie's room and he finds him. And when Willie sees the haircut
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
that Harry has given to himself, because, you know, he can never take responsibility for anything he's done. It's always somehow Willie's fault. Willie laughs, just like all the other lads had laughed, because apparently it was a ridiculous haircut that he gave to himself. Now, here's the conversation.
Wait for it.
That he's having with himself. I was just hoping that Willie would tell me that it would be okay. Don't freak out. Keep calm, Harold. Instead, he laughed like the others. I recall him sitting at his desk,
Here it comes.
bent over a book, chuckling, while I stood before him, fingering the nubs on my newly bare scalp. Harold, what have you done? What a question. He sounded like Stewie from Family Guy. Wasn't it obvious?
Stop it.
You shouldn't have done it, Harold. So we're just stating the obvious now? He said a few more things that were immensely unhelpful, and I walked out. I think he's like 40 years old today. He actually thought it was a good idea to put this into the book, because it's supposed to make us understand how traumatizing his life was, because he shaved off his own head and to make his mates laugh. And then when his brother laughed, it was a trauma because his brother was supposed to hold him and say, it's okay that you did this stupid thing. It's now somehow William's fault for not doing that. This is how this book goes on and on and on. Whatever Harry does, it's somebody else's fault, right? Harry can make no mistakes. Remember, notoriously, he says that he wore the Nazi costume to a party, but also that Will and Kate laughed at it. So he wants to share the blame in something that was so clearly his own decision making. But this is, I guess, we're supposed to feel sad for him.
Stop it.
So he goes on, talks about his cocaine use, and he talks about how the press had somehow, the tabloids, had gotten hold of a photo of him snorting cocaine. Now, Harry and I have some friends in common in the UK. It is well known that Harry was a drug addict. He was very into cocaine and very into partying and very into the lifestyle, and his mates held him up and through it. But now, of course, now he's married to Meghan, he can't be bothered to remember his mates, and now I'm sure he assumes that him ever getting involved in cocaine in the first place
So that was a f***ing lie.
is the fault of his mates, nothing to do with him. So he talks about how they get a hold of this picture, and would you believe it? The palace worked to get this buried, right? So the palace, he knows when he has a problem, the palace works
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
to protect his image, something that he's astonished that took place once him and Meghan got married. How could they do this? How could they be conspiring with the press to make them look good? This is literally their job, right?
You serious?
In the press department. He goes on to describe his cocaine usage, saying, "Of course, I had been doing cocaine around this time at someone's country house during a shooting weekend. I'd been offered a line, and I'd done a few more since. It wasn't much fun. And it didn't make me particularly happy, as it seemed to make everyone around me, but it did make me feel different, and that was the main goal. Feel different. I was a deeply unhappy 17-year-old boy,
So that was a f***ing lie.
willing to try almost anything that would alter the status quo." That was what I told myself anyway. Back then, I could lie to myself as effortlessly as I'd lied to the courtier. But now, I realized coke hadn't been worth the candle.
Wait for it.
The risk far outweighed the reward. Threatened with exposure, faced with the prospect of fouling up Granny's golden jubilee, walking a knife's edge with the mad press, nothing was worth any of that.
You serious?
On the bright side, I had played the game well. So it's just him talking about his cocaine usage, but still somehow making himself the victim of it because he needed to do this to feel different, and it didn't make him happy. And this is back when he's 17 years old.
Here it comes.
He doesn't then tell you that he then kept this up right up until, he met Meghan Markle. And even though he talks to us about the fact that he did joints, he's taken ayahuasca, Harry, this isn't a clean guy. But he wants to go back to the first time he started using it to explain to you that it didn't make him happy, even though he kept up doing it for years and years and years beyond that, because the idea is that no matter what Harry does, remember, it's not his own fault, because there is something underlying that is hurting him, namely his brother.
Okay.
And his need to feel different. So there you go. Now, when he gets into his wife, there's just something I need to say. How many, I guess I should ask, how many times
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
can somebody break down crying? Hey, you guys are married. Maybe you're married to somebody that's emotional. How many times would you say it's normal for somebody to completely burst into tears and to sob onto the floor?
Very good question.
Over every little incident that's happening? He actually recounts a bridesmaid dress issue, which I'm sure you guys have read about in the press, that played out between Kate and Meghan. And I'll summarize it for you before we read him. He tells us exactly the text chain, alleges at least that this is the text chain that took place. Apparently Kate had reached out to Meghan about Charlotte's bridesmaid dress. What is Charlotte? 7 years old, I think. About 7 years old. It did not fit Charlotte. And Meghan was not responsive. He admits this. Meg didn't reply to Kate straight away. Yes, she had endless wedding-related texts, but mostly she was dealing with the chaos surrounding her father.
You serious?
So the next morning, she texted Kate that our tailor was standing by at the palace. His name was AJ. This wasn't sufficient. They set up a time to speak that afternoon. Okay, so Kate has obviously responsibly reached out to her. It's a couple of days before the wedding. He says it's 4 days before the wedding. And Meghan decides not to respond at all. And then the next day, Meghan texts Kate and says, bring Charlotte by to the tailor. And Kate says no for some reason. He just says it wasn't sufficient.
Stop it.
I don't know, maybe because you texted her on the day of and said, show up and go to the tailor. Maybe Charlotte had other things going on. We don't know because he doesn't tell us that part. He just says it was not sufficient. Charlotte's dress is too big, too long, too baggy. She cried when she tried it on at home, Kate said. That makes sense. I'd like to remind you, Charlotte is 7, right? Little girls that are 7 years old cry over all sorts of things. And if they put on a dress and they don't feel very pretty,
Here it comes.
they might break down crying. This is normal behavior for a 7-year-old. Meghan replies, right. And I told you the tailor has been standing by since 8 a.m. Same day text. Get Charlotte to this tailor immediately.
You serious?
Here at Kensington Palace, can you take Charlotte to have it altered as all the other moms are doing? Question mark. Kate replies, no, the dresses need to be remade. Prince Harry, wow. Prince Harry, I don't know what's going on, man. I did not know that being a little bitch could be a brand, but apparently it is. And he's raking in a ton of money. And now you're going to be able to see him be a little bitch pay-per-view.
Stop it.
Yes, unbelievably. He is going to unpack his struggles with a trauma expert. This is, of course, a new age psychologist. And you can pay, I think that you have to pay $33.99 for access to Prince Harry as he unpacks his trauma, the trauma of his childhood. This entire event was coordinated by, of course, his book publisher. And the doctor is a Canadian doctor and an author. His name is Gabor Mate. And he is going to sit down with Harry and they're going to have an intimate conversation. And what Gabor Mate has said about this conversation, where they're going to unpack all of Prince Harry's emotional loss and trauma and his healing, he has said, quote, in Spare, Prince Harry is very open about his mental health challenges, as I have been about in my own books. Such a public conversation, I hope, will help encourage more openness around mental health and contribute to remove the stigma around what we call mental illness. Yeah, I don't really think that Prince Harry is doing this for $33.99 because he wants to contribute to society, removing the stigma around mental illness. I think what he's potentially doing this for is because he wants to contribute to his own bank account. Now, call me crazy, this might be a conspiracy theory, but I think everything that him and Meghan are doing
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
might be because they want to contribute to their own bank account. Hear me out. It might be crazy, but maybe that whole book talking trash about his brother, flying to America, collecting all of this evidence, seeing everything as a dig against M. To dig against M. Everybody's jealous of M. She's so beautiful. She's just like Princess Diana. Maybe all of this is because he doesn't have any talents. Yeah, I think he's just a dumb prince. Yeah, he literally doesn't know anything. And so what he's realizing is like, wow, now that I'm not just receiving millions of dollars because I was born with royal blood flowing through my veins, now that I'm in America, I realize
Wait for it.
I have to have a talent if I'm going to keep raking in these millions to support this multi-million-dollar Montecito compound that me and my wife have purchased. And I don't actually have any talents. Oh my God. Imagine being Prince Harry. He has no talents. He has nothing to bring to the free market. So what is he going to do? He's
Stop it.
going to stretch victimhood for as long as he possibly can. And so he's going to be a full-time little bitch. And if you would like to watch him be a little bitch full-time and you have $33.99 to spare, well, let me tell you guys, let me tell you guys where you can go. You can join the Canadian doctor and the author, Gabor Mate. And I think I'm going to pay to laugh. I don't know. I feel like I have to see it now. I want to see it. I'm interested. And he's got me.
Here it comes.
I'm amazed. I want to see how long this can go on for, how long he can keep crying, and how many people are going to keep continuing to give him and his wife millions and believing that they're victims as they live in a multi-million-dollar compound in Montecito, California.